With the wide receiver room getting emptied the past week, the Seattle Seahawks were going to need to get out on the open market and find at least a wide receiver or two before they get to the draft, and they have done so, landing Marques Valdez-Scantling, a former fifth-round pick by the Green Bay Packers, who's had a pretty long career. He had his best success with Green Bay and then bounced around a little bit until last season. There was a midseason trade between the Buffalo Bills and the New Orleans Saints, where Marquez went over there to them, and this is an important part because, of course, Kubiak was the offensive coordinator at that time. And he went from being disappointing there with the Bills as they were hoping he could be a big play threat for them and became a big play threat in this offense and going to a bit of a different offense, an offense with Kubiak that was more aligned to what he had done with Green Bay, that West Coast styling. So he fits to this offense. He understands what he needs to do. He didn't put up a ton of production last year, though you do have to look at it in that split sample aspect of it, where half the year was kind of with Buffalo, and he is coming into suit to a role within the system. It's nice to get star receivers, those do-it-all guys that can operate on any three position and can be dominant in any three position, but sometimes if you have to kind of put it all together piece by piece, you're going to have to look in other directions to get that done and be a little bit more creative to get that done. This piece would be that big play wide receiver on the outside who can play the X, who can play on the line of scrimmage, who's run these routes and run them very well in the past that are required from this system. He checks all those boxes on it. He's a 4.37 guy coming out originally in the combine, a 1.49 10-yard split. So he's both explosive and fast, brings both of those. And another interesting part on this is that last year, his yards per route run, as being a guy who's historically been kind of this guy, a big play guy, get down the field guy, a high average yard per catch kind of guy, but his yards per route run last year were the highest of his career under Kubiak, because a real notable thing with Kubiak in this system is that he's not your typical West Coast guy that's always really going to try to just stay short and intermediate. He really builds within his passing concepts that deep option. And with Marques Valdez-Scantling, he can do this as both an X on the outside, as he's shown, and he can also give you some snaps and taking the top off the defense from the inside the slot. If you want him to run one of those long crossing routes, for instance, that take a lot of time for most receivers to get that route completed, but has a good chance of being open in this modern age with some of the coverage concepts that are tending to be at play, you need a real fast guy to get that done, and he can do that. About a third of his snaps last year with the Saints were operating from inside the slot there. So he does give you some flexibility, too, in how you can look to use him. This is not a star wide receiver. It's not a guy who's suddenly now going to find some new top end to his career, but it's a $5.5 million signing. At least that's as much as it's going to be worth if he makes all, I'm sure, of his incentives, and there'll probably be a couple in there. So it's not a bad signing, and you needed to bring in some ranks above just getting some star power or getting some guy real high up in the draft. Got to fill this out, get it into being a deep core, and get those kind of parts that Kubiak most needs within the system for it to flourish, and we have done that. My name is Brandon Kane. This is the Hawks Nest. Please hit the like button. Please subscribe. But beyond all that, don't you ever forget, go Hawks.